today's talk, nurturing and strengthening your relationships. And we have Moira. As you've just heard, Moira is a meditator of 34 years. She was a surgical nurse as well as a traveler. She's currently the director of the Brahma Kumari centers in Argentina, where there is what I hear is amazing, a small, amazing, intimate retreat center, as well as a huge center in the heart of the capital. She Moira runs sessions on values and personal development for organizations in Latin America. So not just Argentina, but right across South America. Today, we're hoping Moira is going to share with us how to invest in our relationships without exhausting ourselves. Sometimes we can invest in a relationship and afterwards we feel so tired and drained, and we don't want to be like that. We want our relationships to become worthwhile, a worthwhile investment. What is that? A relationship in which I'm happy and I'm able to support someone else's happiness. So, a good relationship or a great relationship can make an individual can make me better, make me do better, and also feel better. So, how do we put our time, energy, and work in a way that it all comes back to us and we continue to flourish? Moira, I'm going to step out and I'm going to allow you to talk. Moira will be doing a meditation at the end of her talk, a short meditation at the end of her talk, and then she'll take your questions. Please send your questions to us via the question link on your email, and I will put those questions to Moira on your behalf. Moira, thank you.
Thank you very much, Arti. Someone has just asked me, someone's son is living here in Argentina, and you're asking me if where your son lives is near to me. So La Cumbre is in the north of Argentina, and actually I was educated there. My boarding school was there, but that is about 2,000 kilometers from where I live. So it's not really so near from where I am in Buenos Aires. So yes, thank you, Arti, and good evening to all of you. This aspect of relationships is so relevant to all of us. And especially in this COVID time, I think that none of us would ever have imagined that the world could suddenly stop and it would provide us of time and opportunity to look deep within our lives, within our families, and deep aspects of our life. It brought us back home, spending more time with our children, working together, sharing all resources. So for some people, this time must have meant a huge challenge in terms of family relationships, also working relationships, because close to the family and far from the teams. And so what a challenge, what a challenge. The world seemed to have kind of inverted completely. But I think that for all of us, that it became an opportunity and life telling us you cannot escape anymore from yourself. So providing us a chance also to look at the relationship with myself. Relationships is something that I have been thinking of on my personal journey a lot, because I was one of these kind of busy workaholics, coming and going and doing and wanting to get things done, and many times being very result oriented at the cost of relationships. And I remember there was a time in which I was having a lot of difficulty in relationship with our teams. Those days I was helping the Brahma Kumaris in Chile. And I remember I was having a lot of difficulty to get things done together or through others. And I remember talking to Ken O'Donnell, who is our um, senior coordinator of Latin America, based in Sao Paulo. And Ken said something to me and said, look, if you have to choose between efficiency and harmony, what would you put first? And so he said, harmony always goes first. Because even if we get things done and we are very productive or very efficient, if we are not in harmony, then whatever we are getting done won't be so impactful or lasting. Because it's really, at the end of the day, when we put our head on our pillow, when the real result comes up, and that is when I answer a question, am I happy? And so I may be very, content with my results and I got things done but then maybe we are not. There's a lot of tension. Maybe people were hurt on the way. So I learned that it was not just anyhow that we could get the highest results. It did require a lot more attention. It required, and sometimes, in order to reach consensus and in order to be, inclusive, it might take us longer to get there, but it's worthwhile every moment that we invest in trying to harmonize, in listening to each other, in trying to understand where we're coming from. And sometimes I have been personally like very impatient in this process because I consider myself a very fast person. And sometimes, when people say, okay, let me think about it and this, and I would try to convince people. And now I've learned that it's okay. It's really, really the only precious thing that we can have is our relationships. And I came to the conclusion that what else is there in life apart from, what else do we have apart from the relationship with myself, the relationship with others, the relationship with the divine, the relationship with nature? Outside of that, is there anything else? So I came to the conclusion that life is relationship. And so, and I have not been someone who has lived in so much harmony in relationships. And one of my big lessons on the journey was to learn how to become responsive rather than being reactive. I was very snappy and I got angry very easily. And so I realized that although I did get things done because I was efficient and I had clever ideas, but then I felt lonely. I didn't feel that people were comfortable sometimes in my presence. So I had to learn a lot about relationships. And this thing of learning to respond is something that changed my life considerably. And this is something I would like to share with you because, once a dear friend of mine came to visit Argentina. She was a scientist. She was coming from Cambridge. And she was into quantum science and all this. And because she knew about the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris, we used to spend long time sharing. And so what I just shared like this very casually, Antonia, I said, I have to, my sound okay? I think it's covering my mic. So I said to her, I have to take care of an anemia that I have that um, is very severe and it could become something more serious. And she kind of said, when you overcome the anemia of the soul, the anemia of your body will be solved. What did this anemia in the soul mean? And I came to the conclusion, having looked at all my life, the way I tried to get things done, that I valued justice. But in the name of justice, I did things anyhow. And so I used to get angry or fight for things. And so I realized that anemia in this soul was anger. And so at that time, I thought, well, I have to do something about it because anger is something that really spoils relationships, as jealousy and many other negative emotions. But I will just speak of what my own experience. And so at that point, a dear friend came to Argentina and he had just published a book, which I'm sure you've come across in that beautiful inner space where Artie is, which is Don't Get Mad, Get Wise by Mike George. And Mike said something that really struck me. He said, things happen for me, but they don't happen to me. And that made me think, and it took me to the realization that when things happen, we could justify. See, let's say someone is angry at me or indifferent or whatever, something not nice. We could probably think, well, if this one is treating me in this way, then if I snap back, then that would be kind of reasonable. It would be maybe protecting myself. But what I learned is that it's not that I feel the way I feel. Let's say if someone is aggressive to me. So from this statement that Mike taught me, I learned that if someone is being aggressive to me, it's happening here. My favorite provocative person, those who press your buttons, is there. But if I think about what is being said, let's say he's insulting me. And if I feel insulted, then I would feel very bad. But I would probably think that I feel insulted because he or she said it. But what I discovered is that I can only feel insulted if I buy into that, if I import that into my mind. So if I start thinking about that, then the feeling of insult will emerge in my heart. But then the question would arise, who do I forgive? Him or her for saying it, or forgive myself for thinking about it? Because what I discovered was that we feel what we think. If I now ask you, think of someone you love dearly, and then what comes into your heart, what comes into your mind? Probably very beautiful feelings. And if I ask you, can you think of someone with you, that one that presses the buttons and makes you react? So maybe what feelings come up? right now maybe you're feelings of discomfort or tension or rejection. When I think of, why I feel the way I feel, then if I observe that when I think of something good or something good in someone or anything good, I feel good. But if I think of someone negative or something negative in someone, then I don't feel good. So then I could come to the conclusion that feeling insulted really is about me. If I don't think about it and that is being said, it won't hurt me. And I think that a very key aspect of relationships is that we take responsibility for how we feel. So, and I say it's a big cookie, it's a difficult cookie to digest because normally we are used to projecting and we are used to blaming others and saying, I feel this way because this one did this or did that. So I play the victim. And when I feel a victim, I feel like I have a right to feel bad somehow. But then, you know, and I might keep that in my heart, and it might become like a grudge or resentment, and that might last for so long, and I might be in a conflict with someone forever. And things may have changed for me, it may have changed for them, but that is still there, and it hasn't healed. There's a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. So we have to deal with these things. And I think that when we take responsibility for how I feel, then I regain something which is so important in our life of relationship, which is freedom. We are free to feel the way we want to feel. And so that uh, mm, puts me in front of choice. So, you know, if someone said something, it's up to me to take it or not. And it doesn't mean that I just need to sit there and allow just things to happen. I can also be, you know, I can respectfully respond. But when I when I take and I buy into any form of influence, I will naturally react to it. And this is when I lose my control. And one of the things that really um, gets in the way of harmony in our relationships is that we try to control others. We try to control what is happening in a team. We try to control our families. We try to so there's so many ways in which we can do this. And so and really we cannot control. And I think that my two big lessons from trying to understand how to be more responsive was that first of all, I can't control anyone or anything outside of me, but I can attempt to have self control. And the other thing that I learned is that I cannot change the past. And so, one of the things that can help us in empowering our relationships is acceptance of whatever we have gone through and letting go, acknowledging and accepting and letting go. And if I was to tell you, okay, letting go, if I let go of this mic, you just see I put it from one hand to the other. So simple. But when it comes to resentment, when it comes to uh, hurt, when it comes to having been humiliated, then it's not so easy to let go, right? So letting go really means creating something new. And I think this is when this aspect of investing in our relationships is so is so important. We need to focus and create that which we want. And sometimes I think we have gone a long way thinking that clearing, making things clear is like telling you everything I feel. And that might just be, in the name of honesty or sincerity, it might just be a wave of intolerance, because maybe what I have to say is not exactly what you're interested or want to hear. And that doesn't mean that we don't communicate and create sometimes some rules in a way of interacting, and we can very sincerely open our hearts and share what it is that you know mm, bothers me, or what it is that is disruptive in our relationship. We can communicate everything, but sometimes in the name of sincerity, I just tell you everything I've got in my mind. But if what I have in my mind is going to hurt you, then it's not something that I should be telling you. Because one rule that we need to know is that if we give sorrow, what we get is sorrow. And this is the principle behind everything in life, is that as we sow, we reap. So, an image that I like um, is that it's an image that we use in the Brahma Kumaris, that we are gardeners, and I'm in charge of the garden of my life. So whatever seeds I plant in the garden of and my life, my garden is really my mind, my heart, my relationships, and the possibility of making a difference, of contributing in a positive, interesting way to whatever is required from me. And so when I see myself as a gardener, I have the garden of my life and I'm in charge. Nobody can plant a seed in my garden, because nobody can think for me. Nobody can feel for me. So I'm the gardener in this garden, but I can have neighbor gardeners that have beautiful gardens, and they may have grown wonderful uh, flowers and a beautiful setting. So when I look into their garden, I might feel very inspired and say, "Wow, I don't know about you, but I love orchids. I love orchids." Well, in these tropical countries, you get all these flowers, and uh, so I can look at the flowers someone else has planted in their garden and feel inspired, and then come back home and do that. So I can't put my seeds in their garden, and they can't put their seeds in my garden. So this makes us like we are together, but we are individual and whole. So each one is responsible. But together we can as in Spanish, there's a saying that together we are like dynamite, like we can do a lot. So like we can be very close. We can create such synergy and create such an impact. We can also be together and incredibly distant and separate. Yet we may be eating at the same table, we may be sharing the same um, bathrooms or bedrooms or workplace or cars, whatever. So really being close to each other has to do with what we see in each other and what we choose to see. Because if someone is very rude, or if someone is weak, if someone is unhappy, I I see that. I see that. We all see that. But what do we choose to see in others? is what we plant in the garden of my mind. So, especially when we're working together, if we if we choose to see qualities, if we but that would only happen if I am also seeing my own qualities. So that is an investment. It's like a little hobby that we can try to do. And I think I don't know how much time I have, Artie, but I would like to share my latest experience. Um, about a month ago, a bit more, maybe 6 weeks, I had a fall and I broke this arm, which is now healing very fast, amazingly fast. And when I fell, it was very painful. So I had to, immobilize it for a month. And only a week ago it was removed. So I'm starting to rehab. But I connected this fall because everything that happens in our life happens for some reason. And it is always the consequence of a seed that I planted in my life. And when I fell, I had a lot of time to myself. I was very silent. And you know what? One thing I discovered is that when you have very strong physical pain, it becomes like a gateway that allows so the pain or the sorrow in the soul to emerge. Whatever we have stored that we haven't yet dealt with, and we're on a journey dealing with things, and things can get better and better, but things do come up. So for 2 days, I felt like very sad, very quiet. Those in the house who were caring for me with so much love didn't even want to talk to me. They kind of sensed that she just needs to be very quiet. So they would bring the food into my room and they would go so respectfully. And it was very precious in that sense too, because I realized the things that I hadn't dealt with and everything to do with relationships, but relationship with myself. I realized there's nothing that I feel that I could blame anyone for. No one. No one. So there I was, cleansing, cleansing. Because when we are able to see what we have stored in our hearts and it comes to the surface, and I'm able to see that, and we would, of course, make a choice. We want to move on. We want to let go. So this is when the cleansing, when the healing starts happening, because anything negative is not really part of me. And and if we look deep within us, we would see that our nature is peaceful and loving and true. So we would normally, naturally, automatically want relationships that we can enjoy. And so this aspect of cleansing is an opportunity to move on and say, make a choice and say, okay, what do I need? So these days in bed, I spend a week because I had to be very still for the bone not to move. And I looked at my relationship with everybody in our center, our meditation center. We are 5 here, 5 people that couldn't be more different. If God made a choice, he found 5 very, very different people and brought them together and put them here. And so uh, during this quarantine, we went through different phases. We went through each one going through all their stuff. And I'm sure all of you have gone through a lot because this was the game. This was the real game that we had to face ourselves. And it gave me a chance to say, okay, what am I contributing to in the relationship with the people I live, those that are closest to me, these 5. And so I realized when I was not peaceful, when I was harsh, when I was demanding, when I was, very egocentric or not listening or interrupting them. So many little, aspects. And I thought, wow, I need to change. And I realized that this fall, because everything that happens in life has a lesson, it has a gift. Whatever negative thing happens has come to teach us something. That will be our gift because it will leave us at a different level of our consciousness and realization. And so I said, this is all about being positive and exercising seeing virtue. And this is what I've done, you know, and I have a little thing on my desk and says, don't look at others. Don't look at the past. Let's talk about self-progress. And I made a few of these and they took them with them. And so, you know, it became, it created such an amazing space in my mind, so positive. And I realized that, the way, the tone of our voice, the way, the energy, the vibration, because relationship is all vibration, really. Even if we don't say anything, people feel what we think. This is why sometimes a conflict may not have been declared in any way, but it's there, vibrant, because we think about it and we feel, and that vibrates out to people. So when we are doing the opposite, then that embraces people and it brings them close. And it's become, something has shifted in such a beautiful way. And yesterday we were going for a walk, which was my first walk after 6 weeks. Our little boutique retreat place that Arti was mentioning is in a golf course. And so we were walking in this beautiful area, and we were talking with this brother that what have we learned? What have we gained in all this time? And we both agreed how we had become light by choosing to see the good in us and the best in others too. And even though we see things, like we see weaknesses, we see mistakes, we can also choose to let it be or let it go. And it's like, I don't know if this expression in English, just to finish, that just let the water under the bridge and it will just get cleared. And in this I hold a vision of someone who was a very important example, which I imagine many of you know because you live in London and you might have met Daddy Janki. Daddy was someone whom, whenever we went to talk to her, sometimes we used to go and take advice and ask her to take us through things that we couldn't deal with. And I remember once I told Daddy about a conflict I was going through. Daddy said to me, that she talked to me as if that was not happening. And I thought she didn't get it. She didn't understand. And it was not that she didn't get it. It's just that she didn't take it and she just let it be. And she moved on and she moved me on. So Daddy was someone who was so inspiring in this way and always reminding us of the good in us, holding a high vision for me and for others. And that was a very beautiful lesson because when we have a high vision for others, that which we want to see change in others, if we hold it in our vision as, in the form of hope and good wishes, it will surely at some point, it's like the fragrance of the flowers from one garden, the fragrance does go to the neighbor garden as well. So Arti, I think I'll stop here and you tell us how we continue.
So, if you'd like to do a meditation, a short meditation, got 3-4 minutes, and then we'll go from there.
Right. Okay, so let us take our attention inward. Let me breathe deeply. And with each breath, let me let go any tension, whether it's in my back or on my shoulders or in my heart. Let me let go. Let me relax. So I take my attention inward and I will focus on a sacred space behind my eyes, my inner world, where I can observe myself, feel my presence. I'm there, I'm with myself. I am the living energy that is reflecting through my eyes, through my attitudes. I am the living energy behind my words. I am the living energy creating my actions and my every interaction, creating bridges that reach out to others. And I reach out with my thoughts, through my feelings, through my presence, creating relationships, being myself. My thoughts and my feelings are my contribution to every relationship. And if there is anything that I would like to see different in my relationship with anyone, I know I can come back home and I can create beautiful thoughts, powerful feelings. So I come back home to be with myself, to experience that living force of calm and peace. That is my nature. And I realize that when I am calm, I feel very safe. I am very stable. And I'm very clear. So calm is my strength. And I can go deeper within that feeling into my inner peace. I can dive deep within the feeling of total freedom. I am at one with myself, just being who I am, very peaceful, a very loving being. Love is my nature, the energy that nourishes everything I do. I am peaceful. I am love. And I will go deeper into silence, beyond all connection, beyond anything temporary. With my awareness, I can go into the deepest silence, to my home, where I see myself as a being of light. I'm just light. In the presence of the divine source of love, of peace. And I'm able to perceive the vibrations of unconditional love coming from the Supreme. This is the love that heals the wounds of the past. This is the love that has no expectations, but total acceptance. This is divine love. And in this feeling, I will return with my mind. And I feel the breathing of my body as every breath, as the air comes in and out. And I allow this feeling of peace and love to spread around all my body, spreading life energy into every cell. So I breathe deeply, and I'm here back again. Om Shanti. Om means I am, and Shanti means peace.
Thank you very much for taking us through that meditation and that experience, but also for your sharings and your openness this evening. So questions are beginning to come in. Let me start with the ones that I have. What advice or tips can you give for fixing relationships with people who have done you wrong in the past?
People may have done whatever they have done, but how I feel is really happening within me. So I need to forgive myself. And what I mean by forgiveness now is I have to stop recreating maybe those conversations or scenes or moments of my life in which that interaction was the way it was. And I need to, because if I recreate it in my mind, I make it alive. And that might have happened in the past, but because I keep thinking about it, it is alive. But it's my attention and my thought and my interest that is giving it life. So if I want to overcome those feelings, I don't need to do much with the other. I need to do with myself. I need to heal. And in this, I don't know if you're a practitioner of meditation, but meditation can help a lot to heal. And sometimes things that have been very, very um, strong experiences or very deep negative experiences in our lives are not so easy to heal. And this is where we can also take help. Sometimes talking about it to someone that you trust, someone that can offer a higher perspective, that will listen to you with that interest from the heart is very important. But also uh, in meditation, uh, we take divine help, and this is where really God's energy does so much in our hearts, because sometimes we don't we don't have that strength to be able to overcome. But when we sincerely want to let go, and we need to offer it, we need to take his help, and he will help us heal. And we have an expression in the Brahma Kumaris, which I like very much, and that is when the fire of love, in meditation, when we start experiencing the love that is hidden within the soul, but that also comes from the divine connection of the Supreme Source, then that love heals. That love will take me all the way forward to my own self-respect, to understanding my own self-worth, and that what I want is what really matters now. So forgiving is about letting go, transcending that which I have been holding on to.
Thank you. The next question: how do you know when to dissolve a relationship and stop being so accommodating?
Sorry, can you repeat
How,
that?
yes.
And
How
it's
how do you know when to dissolve a relationship and
oh,
stop being so accommodating?
yeah, yeah, that's very good. Well, you know, there's a metaphor that I like, and I like, as you know, I'm a traveler. I think that we're all like sailing boats, and we create relationships. I mean, I'm not referring to the mom and dad relationship, but maybe partnerships or friendships. And so we come across people. It's like sailing. We're all sailing in the ocean, and we meet. We're individuals, we're whole, but we meet. We're never one, we're always two. And but we can do a part of the journey together. But we're not bond together. We're only together for however much we consider that is necessary. And sometimes the relationships become so harsh or so difficult, communication is so stuck and there's so much blockages, that taking a distance is very healthy. And that may not be a permanent distance, but it could be some form of space where you have, like, I would say, regain your oxygen and that you're able to regain your perspectives, that you're able to think, what is it that I want? Sometimes you can dissolve a relation, you can finish a relation, you move on, you just move on. Think of so many relationships we have had since our childhood. We're sailing through life, meeting people all along. We're not bound to people, so we share affinity. Sometimes we share the opposite, but really nothing is meant forever. So I think we can preserve and take care of good relationships, and sometimes the the solution is to move on, and we don't need to expose ourselves to things that we can't handle, forever. I've seen Daddy, when we have gone to her in different situations about things happening in different places, people who have kind of chronic conflicts. And Daddy just said, where do you want to go? So giving each one a chance to do something elsewhere. And then you get like a new page. If you haven't changed the habits that created the conflict, they'll come with you wherever you go, which means you will recreate that relationship with somebody else. So change is really mandatory, but we do need to feel that we flow, that we move, and we have that freedom to choose.
Mm, nice, very nice. Um, what advice would you give someone who's not very good at creating relationships or friends?
Hmm. Yeah, maybe they feel very shy or threatened. Um, well, I think that um, we have to, if your intention is, I do want to have friends, for example, or I do want to have, a relationship with someone, then you probably have to identify what fear you have. And sometimes shyness, can be, you know, sometimes it's just an ego thing. And uh, we have to do something and make a little effort. And like if you're I'm trying to think what it would be that would be the difficulty. Like I feel threatened by people, or I am afraid to be seen, or um, so I think that, or maybe, you can start with yourself and valuing yourself, because mm, relationships really reflect what is going on within me. Sometimes the way we treat people is the way we treat ourselves. But maybe the fact that I can't come close to someone is because I'm not paying much attention to myself either. So maybe I could start with that relationship, like talking to myself, what it is that I want, what it is that I value, seeing my qualities, and, you know, appreciating myself, appreciating what I am, my way of interacting, appreciating my way of participating or being part of things. So if I create a relationship that I can trust myself, then I will also feel that I can trust others, and they will also feel they will be able to trust me.
Hmm,
So,
okay, thank you. Let's explore this next one. Um, and they're referring back to the first question on forgiving yourself. Do you have any tips to help someone who has been burnt several times before and is now unable to be vulnerable around people? And thus, and as a result, it's harder to get close to them.
mm, yeah. Well, I think we have all gone through a lot on the journey of life. We And there's an expression in Spanish, they say we burn our eyelids, no, in relationships. Like we trust and then we are deceived and then mm, we get hurt, and so this in a way makes us feel that, well, better let me stay distant. That might be safer, no? But I think that um, it really comes back to ourselves, and what kind of relationship am I, what kind of friend am I to myself? Maybe I have exposed myself too far and allowed people to kind of tread on me, and I haven't taken care of myself enough because maybe I haven't valued, maybe, and I would only not value myself because I don't know myself too well. So I think that, um, again, I would say that, um, the practice of meditation brings us home and allows us to look within. And if we look within, we will see two different worlds, let's say. One thing is, the world of our habits. And there's where we are in duality. And so we will find good habits and bad habits. So you would say, I am a bad person for this and this and this and this other reason. And you would have lots of reasons to say so, because maybe we have developed those habits. And then we might also say, well, but I'm also a good person because I developed these other good habits. But if we look deeper, because habits are acquired, whether good or bad, they are acquired. But if we have it, we go deeper within ourselves and we observe our nature. There is a part of me that has always been and has never changed. And that is my very core being. That is my essence, who I am as, as a spiritual energy, as a living being. And, and that nature is peaceful. And you, if we look at relationships and say, okay, I'm in a conflict here and a conflict there, but every morning when I get up, do I want more conflict or do I want harmony? And I will surely find myself saying, I want harmony. And you say, why do I want harmony? Because it is my nature. Because peace is what I really am. So I would want to come back home. And maybe I have gone a long way outside of myself, trying to find that in relationships, expecting this from others, expecting this from situations, and being deceived again and again. It's like the soul, the battery of the soul has kind of, due to a continuous expression of, the energy that I am, it's kind of run flat. And my core being still is who I am. I am peaceful, but the emptiness in the battery is not peaceful. It's very much the opposite. If my cell phone ran out of battery, it would just be empty, but neutral. But when the soul is empty, it is not neutral. It becomes the opposite. So I become angry or jealous or attached or very possessive, or very egotistic. And so, and we identify with that. And we believe that that is what I am. But then I'm not happy being like that. So I think that I, I, I bless this quarantine, global retreat, as I call it, has given us the chance to look within and awaken, to become aware of the wealth and the, the richness of the soul, the original beauty of who we are. And I see, for example, that meditation is taking up. You were asking me about Argentina, but I would say it's become a global trend. And I'd love to see people in business going for retreats. I think this is great because there's this understanding that we need to become happy. And this is what makes us productive, ultimately, creative. And so I think that this is such a time that we can really explore that deep, deep um, aspect of who I am. And I would be, this is something that I cherish because it's like the the being is like a jewel. It's invaluable. And that energy is not something that can ever die. It is forever. And I may be good and bad and I could change, because that is duality. But I will always be who I am. No matter what, I will always be. So, an invitation to go deeper into that diamond that you are.
Moira, there's a couple of more questions that I'd like to put to you, if that's okay. This is a really interesting question. What if you are chronically critical of yourself and all the things you've done and how you've alienated people you love? How do you forgive yourself? I'm slowly making amends with the other people, but I can't with myself.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. I feel very identified with your question. Very, very much so, because it has been also my effort. And the, when we are very critical of others, it's because we also are very critical of ourselves. And we, now in your question, you're also saying we are aware that how much that has hurt or hurts others. And then we can also see how much I would have hurt myself through that. And what I have found is that, um, you know, moments in which I was not um, able to appreciate myself, um, because ego, when we criticize, we think we are better. This is the problem. We think we're right and they're wrong, and we find fault in everything and everyone, and we think we have a right to give an opinion. And so little do we know how much, how that is emptying my own world. And so criticism leaves love out. And so I have found a slow way back, or slowly I found a way back um, into God's heart, because I was I didn't have the strength to do to overcome it on my own. It was a very strong habit, and I still working at it a lot. And but I feel that I used the vision, and this is an aspect of meditation. When we think about meditation as relationship with the divine, in which um, we see uh, God's energy as being my father or my mother and my friend or my teacher. And this, uh, it is a very, very intimate process of the self when we are able to undress from our ego, which could at some point be painful, but it's sometimes we're so used to the image we have from an ego perspective that we feel, how could I do without it? What's left? As if you're going to fall from a cliff. And really, it's not falling off a cliff, it's spreading the wings of your self respect and learning how to fly. But what helped me here is that I really, in this silent connection, it's like The vision that God holds of his children is whole. You are a whole being. And his love being unconditional does not hold a vision of my imperfection. And that mirror of my goodness, the mirror of my worth, is what is helping and has helped me to recreate myself. And what I would never see or accept in me, I know that he holds that vision for me. And I can slowly grow into that because I can trust the truth in his heart, the truth that lies in a love that has no questions, that is completely accepting. And when we feel truly accepted and loved, is when we open our heart and allow love in and love out. So I would strongly recommend meditation because I'm working on it, and I thank you for your question because I think it's a very, very, it's a very deep commitment with the self to be true, to be loving and accepting of others. It is only when I accept myself that I will accept others. And in doing so, when I see what it takes to transform my own negative habits, then I'm also able to accept, the efforts others are doing to be themselves, to whatever they need to go through to free themselves from their own illusion. We're all on the same boat. We're all on the same journey. It's our journey to conquer our, I would say, our ignorance. It's our only enemy, and and regain that freedom that comes from being myself, just myself, without having to prove anything. And so I think that it takes courage. It takes courage to ask this question, and and but you know what? There's a big secret in this connection with divine energy, that when we give one step of courage, then he will take us further, many, many steps. So we can hope for the best when we sincerely want to change that habit or any other habit.
Wow, thank you. The next question is, how can I rekindle an old friendship that both, sorry, how can I rekindle an old friendship that broke off due to conflict?
Yeah, it's a very beautiful feeling to want to unite what was broken. I think that we need to prepare, sometimes depending on the situation that brought you apart, but we can prepare, like, first of all, nourish that feeling that you have, that you want to create unity, you want to be united. And that is regardless of what others will say or do with what you will offer. You will plant that seed in the garden of your mind and your heart, and that will bring such beautiful feelings in your life, and that light will certainly be seen. And if a light is bright in a dark place, it will surely um, lighten up others. So I think that this humble, honest, and generous feeling of recreating a broken relationship will take courage. Maybe it will take you to conversations about the past at some point, and you could probably bring the light of realizations that have happened along the way that you can offer, that would, offer the feeling that it's okay. It doesn't matter. We can move on from there. So, and make sure that we keep our heart clean. And if, sometimes when we come together, things are triggered because we remember the scenes, the people, whatever, the moments. And so we have to come back, always come back to yourself and make sure that, we're letting go, letting go. Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter. Nothing is really worth losing my happiness. So, you know, and I think that if you have this gift you want to offer, I'm sure it will be accepted, because unity is, I mean, and I think that what I would say that the greatest sickness today is loneliness. The loneliness that comes not from being alone in a house or on the mountaintop, um, but the loneliness of not being understood and not being appreciated. So if you have these lovely feelings you want to offer, I am sure there will be fragrance going into another garden, inspiring or awakening those feelings in others too.
I'm just going to go back to the question before this last one about being chronically critical of yourself. And you spoke about um, using the divine energy. And the person's come back with a question. Do you need to be religious for that?
Good question. Thank you. Well, not necessarily, because um, meditation is becoming aware of who I am, and it takes deep observation of my inner world and discovery of the energy that I express through everything I do, being part of just doing my playing, doing my part, whatever I do. So it's like coming back home to that. And when we become aware of me being a living, conscious energy, very powerful energy, that uh, enables me to also recognize that that energy has a source, and that the source of the energy of the soul is divine energy, because the soul is divine energy. It's not just an ordinary energy like the energy of the lights around me. It's divine, refined energy, conscious energy. And so the source of that light, of that energy, is equally refined, divine. But as a source is a very, very powerful energy. And so we we need to become silent enough to make this connection and come back home to the silence that is original in ourselves, in us as beings. And this is where we perceive the presence, divine presence of the source. And God is I mean, whatever you call it, divine energy or supreme being or the Father or whatever, it is a flow of power. It is a flow of energy that we reconnect with, and it awakens in us that which is eternal, but that has been dormant for a long time. This is why we're trying to come back to harmony, because back to harmony means we were in harmony, but we lost it on the way. And so we're trying to come back home. So that which has become dormant or distant or somehow not clear for us, when divine supreme energy touches the soul, it awakens. It awakens that in us. And this connection is a spiritual connection because it is the soul is spiritual energy and the source is spiritual energy. And that is beyond all beliefs. It's beyond, um, it's beyond uh, anything limited. So here's an invitation to come into that very deep silence because it awakens a very deep aspect of ourselves. When we come back to myself, it's like I regain identity, the spiritual identity. But when I reconnect to the source, I regain a sense of belonging. And this is very, very powerful because it's like reconnecting to an energy that corresponds to the soul. And that is regardless to anything that I have learned, really. It's like, like the sun is to the flowers, like the flowers, mm, they need heat and light. And when that light touches them, they open and they blossom, they grow. We need heat and light. We need the heat of love and the light of truth. So when that light that has a source, divine source, when it touches us, it awakens that which is what we are.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our evening here in London and your afternoon in Argentina. So, thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining us. We hope to see you again next week and with a friend with some luck. Moira, thank you for making the time, and we hope to welcome you back in 2021 if you have the time. If not physically, then on Zoom for sure. And
Thank you, Artie.
and many, many people are saying thank you. They've really enjoyed it.